All right, we're going to talk a little bit about knowing versus believing, because this has come up a few times, even for myself, and the very interesting perspective that I think a lot of people kind of forget about. So in our world, obviously knowledge is at our fingertips anywhere. We all have a phone in our pocket. It's like a little mini computer. You can find anything and everything you want to validate what you believe or what your opinion might be of something, or all those different things. Now, there's obviously a lot of different information out there that you can find on anything and everything these days, but it's also coming back down to the aspect of, okay, you can know something, but it doesn't mean you necessarily believe it. Knowing something is just knowledge in your mind, whereas believing it is something that you feel right down to your core. So it's often like where you can feel the difference between what a value is, like a true value to someone. You will feel it because of the way they speak it. Whereas if it's something where they think it should just be something that they should have, or where they feel as though, I don't know, I don't really feel it, but I think this is, I should have integrity, or I think I should have this or that as my values, because that makes me a good person, right? And again, it usually goes off of systems or stories through our societies, how we grew up, other people's values that were kind of pushed on us, whether we truly believe them or not. For ourselves is where the difference comes in, because we can know them, we can understand that it might be a good value to have, but it doesn't necessarily mean we believe it is our value. Because again, when you believe something, you feel it and you express it through an energetic point view of yourself, meaning it's literally coming through your aura, and energy can't lie, right? Our words can always lie, our thoughts can lie to us all the time, and tell us all sorts of stuff that's not true, and make these different types of things seem true, but we don't actually feel it down to our core as we do when we believe something really holy and very true, down to that. Almost like where you can say your truth and nobody actually really argues with you about it. They'll accept it. They might not like it, but they'll accept it and just leave it at that. Right? It's because they can feel that truth come off of somebody. They can feel as though they really do believe that for themselves. And whether they're conscious of that or not doesn't matter, but they will notice it at an energetic level. And so knowledge is just something that we can know in our brain, right? We know it's like simple facts of certain things. We know that, but it doesn't mean it's really worth much. It's just knowledge. That's also where you'll hear the difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? It's very similar, basically just different words. Knowledge and wisdom. Wisdom is something you truly believe and you have embodied, and it's in you, it's a part of you, and knowledge is just there. You can go and read an entire book on how to be a surgeon, but you'll never actually know what it's like or believe what it's like to have until you have the experience of actually being a surgeon, right? You can do all the book work in the world, and there'll be certain things that even show up in the book that you're not sure of, you want to question, right? It means you still are questioning it because there's nothing in you that their beliefs of you don't line up quite with what you're reading about or what might be going on. You'll see a lot of this in politics and religion too, right? You'll see a lot of people that are in religion, they'll say this is how it is, but you can always tell whether they truly believe it or not, because the energy of how they say it and what their body language does will always tell you if it's actually their own belief or not. And now the reason why this is becoming more and more important is because as our world changes and the more people wake up to, themselves, to the power of them, the empowerment of energy, the empowerment of knowing self and being able to choose as a free will being, this does become more important because of the amount of knowledge that is out there, and how to find our truth within all of that allows us to create the belief that resonates the most with us as individuals. And here's the thing, it's going to be different for every single person. So you can't put a one box fits all on this one, because it really is not like that. So between knowledge and belief, this is where it can get interesting, because this is why everybody seems dynamic and we're not all the same, because we're all going to have a different perspective when it comes to the things we truly believe in. And then of course, knowledge can be a lot more of a simplistic level based conversation, like what everybody talks about the weather, right? That's why it can seem so boring sometimes, because it's just knowledge. It's sunny today. Do I believe it's sunny today? Sure, because I can see it. This is also where people are going to want to be. I can see it, so I believe it. That's also, again, not necessarily true. to see is to believe is not true for the self of energy, because you can see something but you can still not always believe it, right? It's like where you might see something coming for yourself or for someone, or on a whole, maybe even as a worldly thing, right? This is where conspiracy theories come from. But you can see something maybe different and you're just like, oh, okay, well, this or that has happened and I see that, I understand that. And then you can still have somebody come in and be like, saw the same thing as you did, but they'll still be not denying the very, what seems obvious to you, truth or facts of what happened in that situation. And they'll still be not denying it and saying that something else had happened, right? They don't want to actually maybe believe what just happened is the scenario or the situation that just happened, especially if it's traumatic, especially if it causes some kind of discomfort in themselves. So you can see still like how, something as obvious as it might look to someone, and it might not be so obvious to the next person because their own belief in that is not going to be necessarily the same or there at all. So you can see now how we all wear our own shade and our own color of lenses when it comes to our realities, because they are going to be so different. It's always that saying in that joke of, you can put 10 people in a blank, completely empty room with each other, 10 people in one empty room that's just blank, white walls, maybe a window, but that's it. And everybody's going to see something different and have a completely different story coming out of that, because what they believe to be their truth or what they believe in that situation is how they'll express it. But that belief could just be simply knowledge to another person, or they're going to talk about their own beliefs in that sense as well. It's where someone might acknowledge and say, oh yeah, I saw that too, but that might just be knowledge for them. Whereas the next person's, their belief in what they saw is really strong and they're really putting it out there and they can really feel it. So you can actually really start to see now how you can start to allow yourself to navigate the world in a different way by, instead of seeing everything and then choosing what to believe, you feel it first and then you decide what you're going to believe, right? Because energy can't lie. So if you want an inbound lie detector, trust your gut, because that's exactly what it is. It is the best way of navigating anybody and situations and things, because by reading energy first, it is easier to believe in the energy than it is to believe in the knowledge somebody may give you. Okay, now that you're listening to this, you're like, oh man, do I believe her? do I feel like this is just knowledge for me? And whatever that is for you is absolutely perfect. I'm not asking you to believe in this. I am not trying to change your mind either, but I am just simply putting it out there to maybe spur some different ways of thinking.